this is a Gould pump that has been in the family now. I would say this is the second generation, technically. The problem we're having with it right now is that it runs great. It is not drawing the water through, so something inside is worn out. So I'm going to start the process of disassembling this to see if I can figure out what needs to be fixed or replaced to get this working again. Alright, so the first place I'm going to start is by disassembling this section here, and I am going to record it so that I know how to put this back together afterwards. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I see nuts on top here, and then down in here 2 more. I'm going to just start with this right here. Should be a fairly easy process of just pushing that. There we go, like this. Get that off of there. Alright, take this off. And I have to be careful because there's a couple rings here, so I have to make sure I know where they go after. Actually, leave them right on there. And then this piece will just slide right off. Alright, now this little, let's see, where's my little grease piece here? This was sitting actually on top of this here to keep this lubricated. And since this, I'll be on the experiment for me on how this thing set up and works. I'm sure there was some way to keep this lubricated as well. So what I will need to do now is there's a bolt here, a nut here and here, and I'll need to remove those, and then this whole piece here should slide out and allow me to see what's going on inside here, to see if rings or something's worn out and why it's not pulling water through. Yeah, you see all this?
Yep.
Okay. Alright, so these 2 bolts are off. And what I'm going to try and do now is slide this piece out. Alright, I want to turn this around so we can maybe look inside and see what's going on. I'll get a little bit more light coming around here. Alrighty.
That's why I won't pump water.
Alright, so wow. Okay. Now that's actually not the piston section itself though, but there's a lot of crud in there. I don't know if you can move the... look inside here. What, is there just no...
The screen's gone. Tap the
That's
top.
right. If you touch, oh no, just touch in front. Yeah,
oh,
just
yes,
so.
yeah, it's definitely different.
All right, so that's where we're at for now. All right, so it looks like really what I needed to do to get access to this and this down here, I really didn't need to take that pulley off, that pulley system. So I am going to put that back on because right now I can't move this up and down by hand, and I really want to see what's going on down inside here. But as you saw, there is a significant amount of rust residue in here, which I'm certain is in part as to why this wasn't working. I'll be honest. This is something I normally don't work on, so I'm not exactly sure how this setup is supposed to work. In other words, what's the purpose of that spring in there. It looks like it's connected to this part of this system here going out to this pipe. I'm going to clean out this and this first, and then put this piece back on top. You can see this comes down in. Alright, so when this piston goes up, it creates a suction through here, opens up this valve in here, pulls the water in, and then when this comes down like this, that's going to put pressure on this, close that valve, and then push the water out and through to the garden hose. So the issue must be at this point is that is worn out in there, which I think the next step is going to take this off the top here. If I can get it to at least start going. All 4 bolts are off, so now we're just gonna. Oh, okay. Okay. Whoa! I don't know if you can see all the. Holy smoke! I have my cameraman bring that in close, and maybe can you see underneath it? Wow! Look at that. Yeah, let me hold the, let me bring it closer to the light so you can see also in here. That is just, that's the, I would say the kind of what you call the holding tank. So it looks like this will either need to be cleaned up.
That should push down, maybe.
No, I don't think this doesn't. I think this is supposed to.
Oh yeah, come up and down on the spring. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll clean that off first before I do this.
It might dump most of it all.
I just want to be careful because if it's just dirty.
Yeah, it could be just. It's a pretty simple system.
Once the water's up in the tank, this one will come down and prevent it from going back into where it draws in the water. Oh, okay, there we go. Let's see if I can pull up on that to at least. No, I mean it's good that the spring is keeping it down, but I mean otherwise,
so it
other
seems
than
like that works fine. It's just gonna be cleaned.
Other than the rust, it just seems like everything's in, functioning like it's supposed to. Can you see that? I don't know if anybody can see this piece pushed up right here, but with rust stuck underneath that check valve certainly is not doing its job. So as soon as the water's pulled in, it's being pushed right back out. So my next goal is to see if I can just clean all this rust out, and if everything seems to be in working position otherwise, I'm going to put it back together for a test run. Alright, so what I'm trying to do next is there's 2 parts to this tank system. This is the top portion that actually leads into the tank. This is what's going to keep the water, the check valve, to keep the water from going back out of the tank once it's pumped in. Now what I'm trying to do now is clean all the rust off of it. This is the spring. This is the metal washer holding the that will hold the gasket down as it comes up. lets the water in and then keeps it from going back. Now there was a lot of rust, so I've been taking a lot of this loose rust off around here. At some point I may need to replace the gasket. I've checked the bottom here to make sure that that looks clear, so I'm going to try and rinse this in the water to get the majority of this stuff off here. There's a lot of little bit loose rust, and a little bit may be enough to stop it from doing the job properly, or at least, you know, really decreasing its power. I have a little bucket. I'm just going to put that in. Rinse that up and down. Move that around a little bit. Actually, I'll do that while it's in there. Because what I want to do is I want to get any rust, little rust pieces out from underneath this check valve gasket here. And then I'll do a little bit more cleaning up. And I'll repeat the procedure for this one over here if I can get that out at some point. And then clean that up as well. And it may be a simpler process than we thought to get this back working again. Because as you saw, there was so much rust in here that there was just no way these check valves were going to work properly. Well, I believe I can get a lot of the loose rust that's out of there. There's going to be a ton of pitting. There's just no way I'm going to be able to smooth that out. But my goal is to get all the big loose pieces out, so when this is working, that nothing's coming back in and interfering with that check valve. Alright, so this is the next part that needs to be taken out, and I'll see. Actually, you can probably see if I use a screwdriver and point out the issue is, you can see right here, there's a gap in this piece that's supposed to hold down on the gasket because it's bent. So I need to remove all this, clean out down the inside at the same time, and try and fix that piece that works all the gasket of the check valve down. Alright, so hopefully this is going to be a straightforward process. I'm just going to slide this right down in here. And there we go. So I'll give you guys a better view of what I'm doing here. Without hitting the camera. Alright, I think that is going to come up. We'll take this out of here. I can do that after, actually. Alright, so take this spring out. And I just got to remember that this piece has to face up. And I'm going to see if I can flatten this out. And then put this in. And this pushes down on this to keep that check valve working properly. Alright, if you look down inside, there's actually another little piece of the chipped stuff that needs to actually come out. Well, it dropped down, but what I'm going to do is to clean out this ridge down all around here. I'll see if I can find a wire brush, because that is what needs to seal. The water will be pulled in through here, and that spring system pushes down on the components to keep the water from backflowing down to the point. Alright, so when I put this back together, there's a couple things I want to do differently. At least really just one thing, is this piece here. Normally it would sit flat like this, but it's a little bit curved in the wrong direction, which means it's going to have some difficulty working to stop the water from backflowing down into the point. So this I'm going to put in upside down, use that curvature in favor of its position. This is the piece here that the spring will rest on and push down on it, and I managed to straighten that out pretty good, I think. If anything, I might want to have keep the curvature down on it so it's also pushing down on that. So slip that right in there. This is the spring. I did stretch it out just a little bit, not much. And then the last step is putting this piece back in. I did clean it up, and that will help keep everything in place. Alright, so I want to make sure, I know it's going to be hard to see at this point, but on that washer piece that I put down, there were 3 little notches. I just had to make sure that the spring was on the outside to help keep that in place. Yes. Alright, so everything is back in place. I'm going to make sure the spring is all set, and it's just going to be a matter of getting this to putting all these pieces back together and doing a test run. Well, I was hoping to do at least a test run, but let's see if I can show you. I do have, because I took it apart, I was hoping to reuse the gasket that was there, but it's not going to work. So what I'll need to do next is take this piece off and replace this gasket right around here. Alright, I'm going to show you where it's leaking now. This is off so you can get a better view, but you can tell the gasket's a little bit loose. Well, a lot loose down here and in pieces here. So I'm going to scrape this old gasket off of both sections, make sure this and this is smooth as possible, and then I'll make a new gasket and put that in there. So alright, so what I'm doing now is I need to replace this gasket, and I have something about the same thickness, some gasket making material. I've cut out the outside shape, I've marked the inside area, and I'm just using a knife to cut out this section here. Alright, everything seems to be in place. I know I don't have the best lighting here, but as long as that gasket is lined up, I can tighten these up on both sides, the bolts, and then we'll see if that creates the seal that I need. Alright, so I'm going to turn this on, and this is my primer. This is my primer. I'm going to start with that and see if this thing will pull. If I have any more leaks, I will certainly discover that. Alright, well I gotta shut it off, which means because I got a whole bunch of leaks, so it's time to replace those. Alright, so the next step I'm taking is the problem I'm having here is that these gaskets look like they were made by hand to replace ones that probably had worn out, but there's a lot of crud coming off of it, so what's happening, it's collecting on here and not allowing this to create a seal. I'm going to be using this sandpaper and going around to clean all this off like this. And then also, there's another one that is, I will show you, down inside here. And somehow I need to get in there with some sandpaper and clean that off as well to smooth it out. Alright, so this is now after I've sanded that down as much as I could. It feels pretty smooth to get this sticky stuff off of it. For the new gasket I'm going to make to hopefully help create a better seal. Alright, I've got 2 pieces of rubber gasket making product here. Now this is the thinner of the two. I'm going to try using this first to, and use this as a template to create gaskets for those, both this check valve and that one down there. All right, this is what I'm going to do for this bottom section, because this spring here, as you can see, is kind of worn out, so I don't know if it's providing the effective strength of pushing down on these. So this is the new gasket here. Now this is a little snug around the threads, so I will probably have to, once this is in, is push that down a little bit with a screwdriver to make sure it sets flat on this version of the one down in here. And then I'm still going to use this old gasket on top like this, and then use this piece, the spring holds everything down, and try that out to see if that will work down inside here. All right, so right now this test, this is what the new setup will look like. You can see there's a very thin gasket on the bottom, and I'm using that to hopefully create a seal, and then these upper pieces to help keep that check valve in place. So now it's just a matter of assembling all this and priming it and giving this a shot to see how it works. All right, well, I don't know if it'll be too loud, but here it goes anyway. For the tools and the gaskets that I can get, that I can afford to try and get this running. Right now, I've got it about as good as it will go. Now, it's still having a little bit of an issue holding the check valve issue. The big difference I noticed, though, by putting that small, thinner gasket below the others, and again, the spring might not be pushing things down, is that this time, when I went to prime this, normally I had to use a whole 2-liter thing of water just to get this to start possibly pulling. This time, at least, the check valve's working better. I only used not even half of that bottle to get this primer going. So at this point, unless I get all kinds of extra money to really restore it, it's not going to be enough to pull from a point. It would be nice if I had someplace like a river, a brook, or a pond to pull from. It would work fantastic for that. Now, one of the things that I may do, that someone in another video mentioned, is if there's any kind of antique shows, I can set this up, bring a little water thing with me to at least get it running, and just have fun showing it around. So folks, I hope you've enjoyed this fun for me partial restoration video of a Gould piston pump. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and share.